Welcome back, silent assassin. Welcome back, you walking paradox. Welcome back to the ones who never had to raise their voice to make the whole room go mute. They've been talking about you, haven't they? Oh yes, they have. Not to your face, never to your face, because they don't have the spine for that. But behind closed doors, in hushed tones, with nervous glances, they whisper the same thing over and over again. There's something different about them, something calm, something calculating, something we can't quite name. And what they can't name, they fear. What they fear, they respect. And what they respect from a distance, they'll never challenge up close. You've got what the streets call quiet violence intelligence, and it's the most dangerous frequency a human being can operate on. Let me tell you what that means, because most people will never understand it. Quiet violence isn't about throwing punches or breaking things. No. That's amateur hour. That's what people do when they've lost control, when they're still slaves to their emotions, when they're predictable. Quiet violence is the opposite. It's the energy you carry when you've mastered the art of being calm in chaos, silent in confrontation, still when everyone else is scrambling. It's the look in your eyes that says, I could end this conversation, this relationship, this entire situation right now, and I wouldn't lose a second of sleep. And people feel that. Oh, they feel it deep in their survival instincts. They feel it in the way their breath catches when you go quiet. They feel it in the way their excuses start stumbling over themselves when you just stare, unbothered, unmoved, unimpressed. You don't need to say a word. Your silence is a loaded weapon, and they know it. Intelligence, the kind you carry, isn't about degrees or diplomas or being able to quote philosophers. It's about reading the room in 0.3 seconds. It's about seeing patterns before they form, predicting moves before they're made, understanding people better than they understand themselves. You've been studying them, haven't you? Not because you're obsessed, but because you learned early on that knowledge is survival. You learned that the ones who talk the most say the least. You learned that the loudest egos are usually covering the deepest insecurities. You learned that people reveal themselves not in their words, but in their patterns, their inconsistencies, their reactions when they think no one's watching. And you've been watching. Not with judgment, not with malice, but with the clinical precision of someone who knows that understanding your environment is the first rule of dominance. You see through the masks. You see the fear underneath the bravado, the desperation underneath the confidence, the emptiness underneath the noise. And when you combine that quietness with that intelligence, you become something the world isn't prepared for. You become unreadable. You become a ghost in their algorithms. You become the person they can't predict, can't manipulate, can't corner, can't control. And that makes you the most dangerous person in any room you walk into. Not because you're violent in the traditional sense, but because you've weaponized your calm. You've turned your silence into a strategy. You've made your stillness a statement that screams louder than any tantrum ever could. They've never seen anything like you before. They've dealt with the screamers, the fighters, the people who wear their emotions on their sleeves like billboards. Those people are easy. Those people are predictable. Those people burn out, break down, and self-destruct on a timer. But you're different. You burn cold, not hot. You don't explode. You implode their expectations. You don't fight. You simply withdraw your energy, and they collapse without it. So now, they're talking. They're trying to figure you out. They're running diagnostics in their group chats, comparing notes, sharing theories. What's their deal? Why are they so calm all the time? Why don't they react? Why don't they defend themselves? Why don't they care? And the answer is simple, beautiful, terrifying. You stopped needing them. You stopped needing validation from people who don't validate themselves. You stopped needing explanations from people who wouldn't understand the truth if it was carved into their foreheads. You stopped needing to be liked by people you don't even respect. You crossed the threshold. You became self-sufficient in a world addicted to dependency. You became emotionally sovereign in a kingdom of beggars. And now they can't do anything but watch you move through life like you've got the cheat codes, like you've seen the ending, like you know something they'll never learn. Because you do. You learned the secret they're terrified to discover. That the less you need from people, the more power you have over them. That the less you react, the more they unravel. That the quieter you become, the louder your presence echoes. Let's talk about what happens when you walk into a room, shall we? You don't announce yourself. You don't need to. The energy shifts before you even speak. The loud ones, the ones who were just dominating the conversation with their opinions and their jokes and their desperate need to be seen, they go quiet. Not because you told them to. Not because you're intimidating in the traditional sense, but because something in their primal brain recognizes the predator in the room. And you are the predator. Not in a violent way, not in a malicious way, but in the way that a wolf is a predator. You don't hunt for sport. You don't need to prove anything. You simply exist at the top of the food chain. And everyone else's nervous system knows it. They feel the shift in pressure. They feel the temperature drop. They feel the sudden awareness that their performance doesn't matter anymore because the real power just walked in and it's not interested in their games. Watch what happens next. The egos that were inflated moments ago start deflating. The voices that were booming start lowering. The postures that were aggressive start softening. They don't know why they're doing it. It's not conscious. It's survival instinct. Because on some level, buried deep in their subconscious, they know that you're not someone to test. You're not someone to provoke. You're not someone who will give them the reaction they're fishing for. You see, most people operate on a very simple program. They poke, you react, they feel powerful. But you broke that program. You rewired the code. Now when they poke, you observe. When they provoke, you analyze. When they try to pull you into their chaos, you simply step back and let them drown in it alone. And that is what makes you untouchable. Not because you're distant or cold, but because you've mastered the art of non-engagement with things that don't serve you. You know what's fascinating? They thought silence was weakness. They thought your quietness meant you had nothing to say, that you were timid, that you were easy to overlook. And you let them think that, didn't you? You let them underestimate you. You let them believe their own narrative. Because while they were busy talking, you were busy learning. While they were busy performing, you were busy preparing. While they were busy seeking attention, you were busy building competence. And now the gap between you and them is so vast, they can't even see the bridge anymore. You're operating on a frequency they can't access. You're playing a game they don't even know exists. You're 10 steps ahead, and they're still trying to figure out step 1. And the beautiful part is you didn't have to announce it. You didn't have to brag. You didn't have to post about your progress, or share your wins, or seek validation for your growth. You just became it, quietly, violently, intelligently. Here's what they're really afraid of when they encounter someone with quiet violence, intelligence. They're afraid that you see them, not the version they present to the world, not the filtered, edited, carefully curated performance. You see the truth. You see the insecurity hiding behind the arrogance. You see the fear hiding behind the aggression. You see the emptiness hiding behind the noise. And when someone sees you that clearly, when someone looks past your mask and into your core, it's terrifying, because now they can't manipulate you. Now they can't lie to you. Now they can't play their usual games, because you've already figured out the rules, the patterns, the end game. You see people the way a chess master sees the board. Not just the current position, but the next 5 moves, the inevitable outcome, the patterns they don't even know they're repeating. And once you see someone that clearly, they lose their power over you. Completely. Permanently. That's why they avoid you. That's why they keep their distance. That's why they smile nervously when you're around but never get too close. Because deep down, they know that being in your presence means being seen. And most people can't handle being seen. They've built their entire identity on illusions, on personas, on carefully crafted narratives that fall apart under real scrutiny. But you don't need illusions. You don't need personas. You don't need carefully crafted narratives. You just exist in your raw, unfiltered truth. And that truth is so solid, so grounded, so undeniable that it makes their fragile constructions look like sandcastles at high tide. They feel inadequate around you, and they don't even know why. They feel exposed around you, even when you're not saying a word. They feel judged around you, even though you're not judging them. You're just existing at a level of authenticity they've never achieved, and it reminds them of everything they're pretending not to be. Let's go deeper into this quiet violence, because there's a technique to it that most people miss. It's not about being cold. It's not about being emotionless or robotic or distant. It's about controlled intensity. It's about knowing exactly how much energy to give to any situation, any person, any moment. You've learned the art of calibration. When someone tries to escalate, you de-escalate by simply not matching their energy. When someone tries to pull you into drama, you respond with calm that makes their chaos look ridiculous. When someone tries to provoke you with insults or passive aggression, you respond with a level of maturity that makes them look like children throwing tantrums. This isn't weakness. This is mastery. Because you've figured out that the person who controls their emotional state controls the entire interaction. The person who refuses to be moved controls the board. The person who stays calm while everyone else loses it becomes the automatic authority in the room. Think about it. When everyone's panicking and you're the only one calm, who do they look to? When everyone's arguing and you're the only one silent, who holds the real power? When everyone's reacting and you're the only one observing, who sees the truth? You do. Because you've developed something most people spend their entire lives running from: emotional discipline, mental fortitude, psychological sovereignty. You've built an internal kingdom that's so stable, so grounded, so unshakable that external chaos can't penetrate it. They can scream, they can lie, they can manipulate, they can play their games, and you remain unchanged, not because you don't care, but because you care about the right things. Not their opinion of you, but your opinion of you. Not their validation, but your integrity. Not their approval, but your peace. And when you operate from that place, from that centered, grounded, sovereign place, you become magnetic in the most dangerous way. People are drawn to what they can't break. They're fascinated by what they can't control. They're obsessed with what they can't understand. And you are all three. They can't break you because you've already been broken and rebuilt yourself stronger. They can't control you because you've taken full ownership of your choices, your reactions, your life. They can't understand you because you've evolved past the level most people operate on. You're not playing checkers while they play chess. You're playing a completely different game on a completely different board, and they don't even know the rules. So they watch. They study. They try to decode you like you're some ancient text written in a language they don't speak. And every time they think they've figured you out, you shift. You evolve. You become something new. Because you're not static. You're not stuck. You're not repeating the same patterns like most people. You're in constant motion, constant growth, constant refinement. Now let's address the intelligence part specifically, because this is where you separate yourself from the pretenders. Real intelligence isn't about being smart in a classroom. It's about being smart in life. It's about reading subtext. It's about understanding motivations. It's about seeing what people aren't saying. You've developed this radar, this sixth sense, this ability to walk into a situation and immediately know who's lying, who's scared, who's performing, who's real. You pick up on micro expressions, tone shifts, energy changes. You notice when someone's story doesn't line up. You catch the contradictions others miss. You see the manipulation tactics most people fall for. And you do all of this quietly, without announcing it, without calling people out, without making a scene. You just see. You process. You adjust accordingly. You protect yourself without ever having to go to war. This is what makes you untouchable in ways that have nothing to do with physical strength. You've built a mental fortress. You've created emotional armor. You've developed pattern recognition that keeps you 3 steps ahead of anyone trying to play games with you. They can't gaslight you because you trust your observations more than their explanations. They can't manipulate you because you see the strings before they pull them. They can't fool you because you've studied the playbook. You know their moves before they make them. You recognize their tactics before they deploy them. And this makes you the worst kind of opponent for someone who relies on deception. Because you don't fight them. You don't argue. You don't defend. You just see them clearly, completely, and then you decide they're not worth your energy. And that decision, that quiet dismissal, that calm rejection of their games, it destroys them more than any confrontation ever could. See, people who operate on manipulation and deception need you to engage. They need you to react. They need you to fight back so they can play victim. They need you to defend yourself so they can keep attacking. They need you to care about their opinion so they can use it as leverage. But when you don't give them any of that, when you simply observe, understand, and walk away, they have nothing. No ammunition, no leverage, no power. You've neutralized them without firing a single shot. You've won without entering the battlefield. You've dominated without ever seeming like you were competing. That's quiet violence. That's intelligence in motion. That's what happens when someone evolves past the need to prove anything to anyone. They just become proof. Walking, breathing, undeniable proof that there's a better way to move through the world. Let me tell you what happens to the people who encounter your quiet violence intelligence and don't recognize it for what it is. They make a critical mistake. They assume your silence means they can push further. They assume your calmness means they can test you. They assume your lack of reaction means they've won. And then, when you finally decide they've had enough rope, when you finally decide to set a boundary or walk away or simply stop giving them access to your energy, they crumble. Because they built their entire approach on a faulty assumption. They thought you were weak when you were actually just patient. They thought you were passive when you were actually just strategic. They thought you were unaware when you were actually documenting everything. And when reality hits them, when they realize they've been playing themselves this whole time, it's devastating. Not because you destroyed them, but because they destroyed themselves, and you just watched. This is the part they'll never tell you in those self-help books. Real power doesn't announce itself. Real strength doesn't flex. Real intelligence doesn't need validation. You operate in silence because noise is a distraction. You move in stillness because chaos is wasteful. You speak in precision because rambling is weakness. Every word you say carries weight because you don't waste words on things that don't matter. Every action you take has purpose because you don't move without intention. Every relationship you maintain serves you because you stop tolerating energy drains disguised as friendships. You've become efficient in the most lethal way. You've cut the fat from your life. You've removed the dead weight. You've burned the bridges that only led to places you didn't want to go. And now you're streamlined, focused, unstoppable. You know what the loudest egos fear most about you? Your self-sufficiency. Because loud egos need an audience. They need validation. They need constant reassurance that they matter, that they're important, that they're impressive. But you don't need any of that. You don't need them to think you're smart. You know you're smart. You don't need them to think you're strong. You've proven it to yourself. You don't need them to acknowledge your worth. You've established it independently. This drives them insane because their entire identity is built on external validation, and you've found a way to exist without it. You've cracked the code they're still enslaved to. You've freed yourself from the need for applause, and in a world where everyone's performing for likes and comments and